Episode 014 of the No Pants Podcast. Hey, do I sound enough like the movie guy? Don LaFontaine, is that his name? Don LaFontaine, the little short man with the mustache, had a crazy voice, died like 10 years ago. Does somebody need to replace him? I mean, I will replace him. I don't have a mustache, and I'm not as short, but maybe I can do some voices. I can also do Obama and like a Russian voice. So like if you need a movie trailer where somebody needs to dub over Obama's voice and then a Russian and maybe the movie guy, I'm your man. Or the Joker, like I could do that too. So if you need the Joker and Obama and a Russian and like a sinister movie voice, I'm your dude. Look me up. And I'd be happy to oblige. Anyway, how you doing? Andrew Dalton here, your host. Great things coming up this episode. First, I want to plug some Otis Wilkins and Otis the Destroyer dates. February 9th, Otis Wilkins is going to be at the Blackheart. We're also going to be at Hotel Vegas on February 23rd, and then March 3rd at Oscar Blues Brewery. That is a great place. If you haven't been, go, preferably on the day that we're playing, and then we can all hang out. It'll be a great time. Otis the Destroyer, February 16th at Swan Dive, and February 24th at Hotel Vegas. I guess we're just going to be at the Hotel Vegas on the 23rd and the 24th, playing completely different songs, and I'm all right with that because I love that place. Get all of the information for Otis Wilkins and Otis the Destroyer on our Facebook pages. Just search us, you'll see it. If you are listening to this podcast and you live in the Austin area and you haven't been to a show, come out to a show. Let's hang out, man. Find me afterwards and let's chill, let's shoot the shit. Who are you? I want to know who you are. I know that there's a lot of people listening to this in town that I don't know yet, and I want to know you. So basically my goal is to know everyone on Earth. Is that possible? Can you know everyone on Earth? They say that you can only know 150 people at a time before your memory runs out. Maybe I could just take a pill, like Bradley Cooper in Limitless, where I'm able to remember everyone's name on Earth after I meet them for the first time. That would be fantastic. Also, if I took a pill like Bradley Cooper in Limitless, I could tell you that I wouldn't just immediately be a stock trader. Why did he go and be a stock trader and just start dressing like a douchebag just because the other 90% of his brain was unlocked? Hey, is that what you do when you just have all of your brain to use? You just start trading stocks? Really? You can use 100% of your brain, and the first thing you do is start trading stocks with Robert De Niro? That's when that movie lost me. Man, dude, go build a 3D sculpture that paints itself. How about that? Have you ever thought about something like that? I don't really even know what that means, but I imagine if you had 100% of your brain, you could probably figure something like that out and then be like the next Picasso, except with virtual reality. Hey, go use virtual reality to be the next Picasso. You have 100% of your brain to use. You're going to trade stocks? You're Mad Money? You're Jim Cramer now? That's it? Man, that movie really pissed me off. I'm so triggered right now. Anyway, I digress. My guest today is Bobby Pearson. Bobby is the host of the Not For Everyone podcast and is also the guitarist for a band called StrangeGun here in town. Bobby is a wonderful, wonderful human being. It's great getting to hang with him any chance that I can. And his podcast is fantastic. If you haven't heard it yet, he and his co-host Adam basically riff over a lot of really cool movies back in the day, man. We're talking 80s era horror, stuff like that, comic books, records, you name it, man. It's just a couple of guys that are really into pop culture, so I can't recommend it enough. We hung out at the Citywide Garage Sale before taping this episode, and if you haven't been to a Citywide Garage Sale, I highly recommend it. It's basically a room full of like 50 garage sales in one, and I didn't buy anything, and I felt like I kind of accomplished something by not buying anything. It's a little like going to a strip club and walking out not broke. And anytime you do that, it's a job well done. Mission accomplished. George W. Bush on the hanger with the banner around him, mission accomplished. You did good, son. The song at the end of the episode is called Northern Boulevard. That's by StrangeGun. You could find their information on Facebook. They're playing once every month or two here in town, and you don't want to miss it. It's a great show. Have some beers. Bring some earplugs because they go pretty hard. And without further ado, everybody, Bobby Pearson.
It's time for the No Pants Podcast.
No Pants.
No Pants.
Broadcasting from the south of France. We're definitely not in France. I will tell you this. You're listening to the No Pants Podcast. And there I was in Shawshank Prison, listening to the No Pants Podcast. Some look at pants and ask why. I look at pants and ask why not. It is inevitable that we're here today to discuss the No Pants Podcast. I'm Michael Kay, and I listen to the No Pants Podcast. The 1922 World Series brought to you by the No Pants Podcast, yes, and that's best. Hey, we gonna listen to the No Pants Podcast? I mean, really, the question at hand is if there will be pants or if there will not be pants. But will there be pants and will there not be pants?
Welcome to the No Pants Podcast. Bobby Pearson, how you doing, buddy?
I'm great. Are we good?
We're
we
live.
going?
We're going.
Okay.
This is it. Button your pants up, or take your pants off. Are you taking your pants off?
That's what I was doing. I
Go
thought
for it,
I thought
man.
that was the rule.
I mean, it's not the rule. You can definitely take your pants off if you want to.
Oh, I honestly I thought that was like the whole.
Yeah. It's just like you're ready to go, man.
Well, on
You
one hand, it's
started
like
up bucket.
that's the name of the podcast. And
Yeah.
we're at my house, so
Yeah.
deal with it.
I mean,
know?
you can do it. I mean, we're literally inside your house. I'm not going to stop you. I'm going to keep mine on just because I'm already seated, you know? And so,
Oh, we'll see what happens by the end of this.
yeah, well, and, you know, we could go anywhere. We've got some sour beers
Yeah.
going. They're pretty delicious.
And I'm gonna say what I was saying earlier is, you know, I am not a fan of like microbrew culture.
Yeah, IPAs.
Ugh, I imagine that's what pee tastes like.
Yeah. PP.
Not that I know.
Yeah, I don't either. I've never tasted urine, but I could imagine what a liquid pine cone
Wait, yeah.
tastes like. And it's essentially like all microbreweries are like, taste this liquid pine cone.
Yeah, or like the other thing is like I don't need a fucking fruit salad in my beer either.
Yeah.
I don't
that
need
too.
like apricot pale ale.
You talking about the Leinenkugels now?
I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
what that means.
The Leinenkugels taste like Fruity Pebbles, man. It's just like straight up Fruity Pebbles.
What happened to beer that tastes like beer? Is what
I don't know. But this, I mean, we're kind of hypocrites because this does not taste much like beer.
I
But
agree.
but it's still good.
I was gonna say, you know, sour beer is where I make the exception with my rule on the
Yeah.
microbrew culture. Then I was like, I don't want to hear about hops and barleys.
Yeah.
The sources of those things. I'm like,
You don't-
does it have ethanol in it? You know, let's
Give me.
drink it.
Can I get drunk off of this?
Exactly.
This is the thing I can get drunk off of. It's I like the names
Mm-hmm.
of these beers. Sour Monkey.
Victory Brewery.
Kind of like craft brew beer names and like boutique guitar pedals.
I hate the word craft and I hate the word boutique.
Boutique, yeah.
That's
I think it's really just a modern code for whites only.
Yeah, I was about to say.
It's pretty
I
much.
always say, like, if you want white people to think anything's awesome, you put
Yeah.
the word craft in front of it.
Yeah, I think that's just modern day guilty white liberals' way of still getting to do things that are whites only, but without feeling guilty about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're kind of rebranding it.
Yeah.
It's like no. It's like artisan. It's
Yeah.
throwback and old school.
Yeah, like whatever. Get Out, the movie. Like,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
That was a great movie.
All right. It was a great movie.
I liked it a lot.
Yeah, it was the dad. I didn't know that was Eric from Billy Madison until like
Brad
until like a
Whitford.
month ago. Yeah, had no idea.
Yeah.
I don't
Not
know.
the dad. He was Eric from Billy Madison.
Right. So the dad in Get Out was Eric. From
Oh yeah,
Billy
I got
Madison.
confused there. Sorry, we're drinking Sour Monkey.
Yeah, we're drinking
What do you
Sour
want from
Monkey.
me?
It's gonna toss up the brain waves all the time. It's gonna just scramble you upstairs, man.
Yeah.
But I had no idea, and somebody was like, "Yeah, man, that's Eric from Billy Madison." I'm like, Shut up. And
Yeah.
he's like, and then I looked at it. I was like, oh, he just doesn't have the crazy West Wing Billy Madison hair going.
Yeah. Can you do the weasel laugh?
I can't do it.
That's pretty good.
Not very good at it. But he looked older. He aged well. You know, he was great for that role too, man.
Oh, he was in. Did you see Cabin in the Woods?
I did once.
He's in that one too. He's a good character actor. I like Brad Whitford.
He's great, man. He's up there with Bruce McGill. I'd put him up there with the likes of Bruce McGill.
I put him out there with Bruce Vilanch,
Oh God, Bruce Vilanch.
Hollywood Squares.
Somehow this is like the third time Bruce Vilanch has been mentioned on this podcast, and I'm not sure why that's the case.
Can I ask you a question about Bruce Vilanch?
I mean, sure, yes.
have you ever met anyone that's a legitimate fan of Bruce Vilanch?
I've met a Canadian over the internet that I've never met in real life that is a legit fan of Bruce Vilanch.
Well, that doesn't count because it's a Canadian and it's over the internet.
Yeah, they put moose pepperoni on their pizza. So
Oh,
I'm pretty sure.
like moose meat?
Yeah,
Pepperoni?
Yeah. I was watching a game at my brother's house. It was a Rockets game, but it was on the Canadian Sports Network.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty sure I saw a Little Caesars commercial where they tried to sell moose pepperoni pizza.
What the fuck?
I know. Yeah, that was
I'd
like
eat it, I'm
4
not gonna
layers
lie.
of Canadian. That was just crazy. But anyway, yeah, Bruce Vilanch, never really met a real fan.
Yeah.
Well, he, a lot of kids aren't going to know who Bruce Vilanch is these days anymore.
All I know him from is Hollywood Squares.
That's true.
Like, has he been in any movies?
I think most of the time he's just made a career out of running into rooms, throwing buckets of confetti everywhere.
He is no, that's Rip Taylor, isn't it?
No, I think Bruce Vilanch does that.
Probably. It's
But maybe they both do
that same tier of celebrity.
Maybe they've both cornered the confetti throwing buckets.
That's a good place to be. That's a good level of fame. Like, people don't really know you, but you're still making a living doing it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
You're like a level below Tony Clifton at that point.
Or it's like being a local musician that still draws a crowd, but you're not going to get like hoarded with fans everywhere you go.
Yeah, Bob Schneider. Schneider.
The Bob Schneider effect. The Dale Watson effect.
Bob Schneider, Bruce Vilanch, basically the same person.
I think so too.
Yeah. I say that every time I go see Bob Schneider. I'm like, he's the Bruce Vilanch of local music.
One time I was just Googling pictures of Bruce Vilanch because I'm fascinated by him and why he's a cultural...
And why shouldn't you be?
Right. And like, you can find pictures of him like with a beard. You can find pictures of him like silly T-shirts. And it doesn't matter. Like, he's so like... His looks are very jarring.
Right.
It's like, it's shocking. You're like, oh wow, this is a human being.
Yeah, yeah. He is kind of like if Harry Carey took 14 acid trips in a row, and then just decided to never do baseball again. Just got really into throwing parties
and gained like 200 pounds.
Sure. I mean, yeah. He was a large guy. Is he still alive? Bruce Vilanch still alive?
Yeah.
He is.
I mean, I don't know if his career is, but
yeah.
Or if it ever was.
That's true. We should find Bruce Vilanch sometime, see what's going on. We just came from the citywide garage sale in downtown Austin. I guess there were two hopping activities this weekend. It was the Women's March and the garage sale.
I take garage sale every time.
Yeah, well, because I hate women.
Obviously.
I obviously hate women.
So we go do something that old ladies do.
Yeah. So a bunch of aunts named Paula. That's what we hung out with, the aunts.
Right.
Paula. There were like 14 Paulas that I saw.
Under different circumstances, we could have like slayed that place.
Yeah. Want to make it clear, I don't actually hate women. That was a joke. But if you're offended by any of that, you can go fuck yourself anyway. So,
isn't that how you have to like specify
nowadays?
To like disclaimer
people
everything.
Don't have,
like, clearly you're joking.
People don't know jokes these days. No.
I don't like to think about it.
You're a piece of shit, and I'm going to call you out over the internet for being a piece of shit. Okay? Because that's what the internet is for. Is faux moral superiority.
Virtue signaling.
Signaling virtues with my virtue signaling fingers on Twitter. Bing. There we go.
Thumbs up.
But we just came from the citywide garage sale. It was literally a convention center full of... How many booths would you say there were here?
Maybe like... I'd say like 50.
It was like if you took an entire neighborhood that was throwing a garage sale and threw it inside an event center.
You might even say it's like if they took an entire city.
Yeah.
That was throwing
a garage sale. Because it was a citywide garage sale.
Right. It sprawls the entire city, but they consolidate in one location.
Yeah. It was amazing, to say the least. So many video games, so many pocket knives. Mm-hmm. A lot of old men selling pocket knives.
Hitler Youth knives.
I saw like 3 Hitler Youth knives. Mm-hmm. The guys selling those were suspiciously blonde.
Yes.
Yeah, suspiciously blonde, old, and quiet. So
yes,
I'm not sure what to make of those.
I think they were
guys.
just following orders.
They really were just following orders. You can't really slight them for the crimes of their past.
You know, you get involved in a hierarchy, in a system.
Yeah.
You have vested interest, and you just have to like go with the flow.
Yeah.
Hitler Youth knife sales.
You get your orders, you carry them out like a good soldier. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much all there is to it. I really thought the whole thing, I liked it because a lot of the people that selling in their nooks are very friendly. Talked to an old guy about a toy gun. That was pretty great. And then other times there was just people selling things, and it looks like I got the vibe that they may have just been like more productive than usual hoarders.
Right.
They were just like hoarders that were like, shit, I need to get rid of some of this.
Right.
And I'll take the first steps in doing that. Maybe just hawk it at this garage sale.
Steps at a time. Yeah. Totally. They're on the path to recovery.
Yeah. It was a pretty interesting thing.
One thing about that is like in those situations, even like in like a weird market in a foreign country or a citywide garage sale or whatever, and those like little like DIY sales booths. Mm-hmm. I always want to like walk around and give everyone the time of day and check out what they got, but I do feel like a slight bit of guilt every time I leave and like don't buy anything. And especially if like I make eye contact with the person, they give me like a nod or something.
I've never felt like I have been in an outdoor market in Mumbai, India, more than when I'm at a citywide garage sale in an event center.
Right. There's a lot of vegans at both.
Looking at disregarded dishes that look like they came out of Charles Bronson's kitchen in 1978.
Yes.
A lot of 70s furniture, a lot of the 70s dinnerware, a lot of like, what do you call it, tinted glass?
Sure.
A lot of like stained glassware, you know?
Right.
They like to look like...
It's like translucent. It's dyed, but it's,
They wanted their plates to look
frosted,
like...
maybe?
Frosted, there we go. A lot of people in the 70s wanted to have their shit look like it was like thrown through a flame before they eat off of it.
It was.
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
It really was.
I'm no welder, but...
I'm not either.
Glass blower.
But there was a lathe maker there. There was a lathe guy. He was selling lathe tools.
Okay, what... Is a lathe like a... Is that for like carving or?
Yeah, lathe is that tool where you basically carve like cups or bedposts, things like that. You stick a piece of wood on this like sideways spindle, spins around. You stick a sharp kind of scoop looking deal up to it, and you can make shapes. It's like the pottery thing from Ghost, except
with wood.
Patrick Swayze.
But here's the thing: as you were describing it, it kind of started to register what you were talking about, and all I thought it was bedposts. Like, what else do you make?
Cups.
Or like, I guess, legs of furniture.
Hey man, the cup of Christ is the cup of a carpenter. You know,
the penitent man will pass.
The penitent man will pass. You know, cups and stuff like that, I guess, is what you make with lathes.
Yes.
I don't know. That's some shit you do when
Wooden
you're
cups.
old. Yeah, that's definitely some shit you do when you're old and retired and you got nothing else to do.
I wish I had time for that kind of shit.
Yeah, I really do too. There's only so many. I gotta focus my shit down to, 2 or 3 things to really. I've noticed that. It's like I've got to focus my shit down to like music, podcasts, and like getting enough sleep.
Right. I mean, work is in there too.
Because I like work, make sure I can pay my bills with my day job.
One thing I think you learn like when you get older, when you're kind of approaching late 20s, early 30s, is like you have to learn how to prioritize pretty much everything, right?
Yeah, everything. Yeah.
Like everything from your time to your friendships and how that whole relationship with all of that stuff.
Yeah. You got to like figure out who are the friends that you hang out with in real life and who are the ones that you just text.
Right. Now, have you ever like had the desire to like purge your social media?
All the time.
But like
I did that the other day.
You did. The irony of that is like I get that desire all the time. However, I don't have the time to do that.
What do you mean by purge my social media?
Like just get rid of fuckers that like bring nothing to the table or people you haven't like just whittle it down to like your mostly core.
Oh, my Facebook feed is like absolutely nothing but people I actually interact with.
Oh, really?
And
okay,
like,
so yours is already
Facebook. Yeah, Instagram is a lot of things.
Right.
Instagram is like my friends, and then very hot girls, and then things I'm into.
Right.
Musical instruments, comedy clubs.
Yep.
Bands.
Basically like mine as well.
Yeah, but I've gotten into the habit of not following the friends of friends. I don't care. I just don't give a shit if I don't know you.
Perfect example is like, okay, say you're dating some girl like years ago, and then you end up like at that time you end up like friend requesting like her BFF.
Right.
Then y'all break up, and it's whatever. Like whether or not you defriended her or whatever.
Sure.
I usually try to keep it civil on some level.
Sure.
Like, do you really need to keep like her friends that you hung out with at that time? Because you're never honestly, you're never gonna fucking interact with those people again.
I mean, maybe you won't.
Maybe,
but with someone, I mean,
I guess
it depends on the
case.
breakup.
Yeah,
definitely a case by case.
Yeah. I agree.
If you were broken up with by this girl, and you might want to hang out with her friends sometimes, just maybe out of spite, or because they generally are cool people.
Right.
Keep them around.
Right. No, yeah, you're right. Case by case, I guess, with everything.
I would not hang out with any of my ex's friends out of spite. I just want to make that clear right now.
I would not hang out with any of my ex's friends out of desire.
Yeah, that's true. Definitely depends. It's a case by case thing.
Right. You just play the game when you're in the moment.
Content management I fucking hate that word.
That's a buzzword.
I hate.
That's so neo-corporate.
I'm a content creator.
Yeah. You know what you are is you're a thought leader.
Yeah. A thought leader. Influencer is a thing now. You're an Instagram influencer.
Jesus Christ.
We're all going to die.
You know, you're like what, early 30s?
Early 30s.
Okay, me too. So like we are on that weird cusp, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't claim millennialism, but some people might label me that.
Yeah. How old are you?
I'm 33.
Okay. Well, we're the same age.
Okay.
I'm 33 too.
Like
I can claim it.
Here's how I define it. I legitimately believe that millennials do not remember a time without the internet.
I think
that's my rule.
I think we're like elder millennials.
Right.
We're elder. We're some of the elder millennials. We're the older generation. We're a little wiser. I feel like we're the elder council. Of
I think we're actually very lucky in that sense, in a way.
Yeah.
Like we're in tune enough with like internet culture and like the impact it had even in our formative years, but we also remember like going outside.
Sure.
Stickball and the paddle with like the cup and ball.
Yeah.
Cup and ball toys.
Well, we didn't grow up in the 50s, so I don't remember the cup
We
and
were
ball.
Poor, so.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah, definitely.
Thanks for bringing that up.
I was definitely locked outside when I was younger.
What I remember, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying I was definitely locked outside a lot, like where my parents would just be like, "You're just going to stay outside all day." And I'm like, "Well, what if I get thirsty?" And they're like, "There's a water hose."
They'll call fucking CPS on you now if you do that.
And then like my mom would just be like, "Here's a sandwich," like 3 hours later. And I'm like, "Can I come in now?" And they're like, "Nah, just stay out there." And now I don't have children, but I am an adult of parent age.
Right.
So I do understand. I can imagine the appeal of just like telling your kids to fuck off for like 8 hours.
Hell yeah. It's good for them.
Yeah, definitely.
To another Last Crusade reference, I taught you self-reliance. Deep cut. Junior. No, but you're right. And speaking of like your last podcast with Nicholas Meyerson, right?
Dr.
Nicholas Meyerson. I see. I grew up with that kid like one street over.
And I've known him for about a solid 8 years now. So
I've known him since the 4th grade.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And speaking of that, we're still great friends now today, but like it was like a geographic, by default organic friendship just because like they were the kids in the neighborhood,
Yeah.
But I remember the day that like playing outside ended. Like we were literally, not me and him, he comes in the story later.
Okay.
But me and whoever else in the neighborhood were outside playing baseball in the street because that's what we did in the suburbs of Houston.
Definitely.
Nick Meyerson rolls up on his GT Interceptor. And he's like, "Yo, I just got an N64." And if this is a movie, you could just like see a shot of like the ball that we were playing with like rolls into the gutter.
Yeah, rolls into the gutter.
And then like the bat drops and like rattles on the concrete. And then like that was the last day we played
Game
outside.
over. Turok. We're talking Turok.
WCW versus NWO.
We're talking GoldenEye.
We're
talking Perfect Dark, which was just your futuristic GoldenEye.
Pilot Wings.
We're talking. What are we talking? That baseball game that was like not that great, but you still played it because it was the only N64 baseball game. I don't know. Can't remember the name. Wile-E Golf. Remember that game? Did you ever play Wile-E Golf?
Yeah. I haven't thought about it since I played it, but
yeah, man. Mario Golf, Mario Kart 64.
Yeah, it's just weird. Like this neighborhood I live in, like there's some kids, and sometimes they're outside playing. I'm just like, what the is the PlayStation Network down? Like, what's going on here?
That's a like a legitimate accomplishment to like be playing outside as a kid these days, man.
Right.
What if there's like a whole movement of kids that are just like anti-internet, and they're just like, we're the fundies, and they're like run around the neighborhood and like they're anti-internet.
It's
and
like the Warriors.
Yeah, they're like the Warriors. They're like very like they live in like bougie middle class neighborhoods where all of that shit is accessible to them, but they're still just like, nah, we're all about the outside.
And they're like running on the street with one of those hoops with like a stick.
Yeah, they're all about like, they're basically hipsters in training.
Honestly, man, my most fun sober times. Before life starts to shit on you and you resort to the bottle or whatever else,
or just
like do it for
coping.
fun.
Yeah.
You're of legal age and you can.
Yeah, sure.
Honestly, the most fun times were like hide and seek in the neighborhood, or like just night games like that. Like,
Definitely.
you know what I mean?
Definitely. Wrapping houses. Wrapped houses a lot, you know. But the good ones were, you got 8 rolls of toilet paper. You hit a friend's house, and the next night you wait for them to retaliate with an ice chest of water balloons.
Yep.
And you wait for their counter-strike, and then when they proceed to try to retaliate, you strike back.
That's when Counter-Strike wasn't just a video game.
Yeah. Counter-Strike was actually legitimately waiting for your friends to come wrap your house.
It was a verb.
It was a verb.
Can I say this, Andrew?
You can.
Let me stroke you off for a moment.
Okay.
I mean, not literally, unless you
please.
want, but
I've only
this
had
is the
one
No
beer,
Pants
so,
podcast.
Sure.
I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Yes.
Like I got my core ones that I listen to, right? And then sometimes I want to expand out, and I have my own podcast, so I'm always trying to like see not the competition, but what other people are doing in the same kind of vein as.
Yeah.
And I've come to conclude, like, in this day and age with the internet, like there's a lot
There's a lot of shit.
There's a lot of shit.
Yeah. Oh, like actual shit.
Like shit. And it's fine. Like, it's like, do whatever you want. Like,
sure.
You know, more power to these people. But like, there's a lot of not good stuff out the content, not good content creators.
Yeah. Subpar.
And I just want to come out and say, like, you're not in the pile of shit.
Oh, thanks, man. I try to.
Yeah.
I try to.
No
keep
problem.
It,
no problem.
I try to keep it, you know, entertaining and enticing. So appreciate that. Yours as well, man. This is
thanks.
We're in the not for everyone podcast studios currently. This is not an episode of Not for Everyone. It's like I'm a visiting team. You know?
Yeah.
And we're just using the facilities.
That's fine. Well, we're using your equipment too.
We're using my equipment too.
That's fine.
Which is why the audio is far superior. But
okay.
I'm kidding.
All right.
That was a joke.
You're probably right.
Okay, that was a joke. Your audio is great.
You can disparage me. I don't care.
Disparage me all you want. If you haven't heard the Not for Everyone podcast, I mean, it might not be for you because it's literally not for everyone. But Bobby and your co-host
Adam ATOM, he's very picky about how you spell his name.
Basically, we'll discuss a single movie for every episode and kind of break apart certain films from a certain era. Give me a little idea of like what your guidelines are for what movies you guys talk about on those episodes.
Excellent question. So the term "not for everyone" it has double meaning, right? On one hand, we're discussing movies that are literally not for everyone, which could be a lot of movies, but you know what I mean. Like it's a niche. It's like B movies, horror movies, usually 80s horror, but that we're not limited to that.
Right.
It's also not for everyone because we totally own the fact that like it's fine if you don't like it.
Sure. It's
fine if you don't like us. It's fine if you're offended by us. That's fine. That's natural. We should have that. We shouldn't have homogenized everything.
No. I think podcasts should not be like a Coldplay song.
No.
Yeah.
No. And we should embrace that.
Yeah. Coldplay song. Maybe not the best. Let's say that Lumineers.
Right.
Lumineers song. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, Lumineers song's pretty bad. So that's pretty homogenous.
Yes, homogenized indie rock. Quote unquote.
A song by the Lumineers is like drinking a tepid glass of milk.
Right.
Right. It's like you kind of even have to think about it to realize it's even there. You're just like, oh, wait, is that a song that's happening right now? Or is that the intro to a Katherine Heigl trailer?
Right, but it's also like not offensive either.
Exactly.
I think that's the point, though.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, I don't like get visibly angry or like... And also that goes back to the whole thing I was talking about prioritizing. Like, remember when I was a fucking full-blown, like, snobby, like, hipster, Austinite. I mean, you could still argue it today.
You kind of have to. I've said this before in other episodes. You kind of have to go through that phase sometimes, depending on what you do in life. But, like, if you're somebody that's into, pop culture, music, movies,
right,
anything like that, where maybe you're a creator yourself or anything like that, I think you have to go through those immersion years,
right,
where like you're just soaking in shit, and also personality wise, you take yourself a little bit too seriously, and it's all about like, finding your scene or your tribe. It's all tribalism on some level too.
But what I'm getting at is like the older you get, especially I'm realizing this now as of like the last 6 years, like you got to like prioritize not only your time and like, you know, how you spend it or your friends or whatever. You have to prioritize your own emotions, right? Like,
sure.
I don't have fucking time to get mad that like One Direction stole the Ramones logo.
Yeah. Did they really?
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, and I've mentioned this on my podcast too, but like, I have these kind of old school, like 50 something rock and roller, Austin local type people, like on my Facebook feed.
Right.
And they're just livid. Like they'll just post for days about how livid they are about stuff like that. Where it's like, you know, can you believe this? Our sacred band, the Ramones, has been taken over. Their logo has been co-opted by One Direction.
No.
And I'm like, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
I'm like, I got to go to work.
Yeah. You know, I think there's, that goes back to the content thing a lot. I think a lot of times you'll see a lot of stuff out there and we're just like, I just don't care about that. I just don't care about this. But I guess that just goes back to like, there's something kind of for everybody.
Right.
I was looking up how to properly thaw ground beef last night. My brother and I were at his place making some tacos and just forgot how to do it. I was like, what's the safe way to do this? Sometimes, you know, you'll end up with mushy meat. You don't want to end up with mushy taco meat. I was looking it up, came across a blog. There were like 45 moms who had basically just started a comment chain on how to properly thaw ground beef.
That's beautiful.
This is the most monotonous thing I've ever heard of. But if you're a mom, that shit's right up your alley. You know?
The information's there if you need it.
Yeah. So that's the thing. It can drive you mad, or you could just kind of find whatever you want.
Right.
So, but back to your movie selection for this podcast.
Right.
So what is the criteria there?
Okay. So my buddy and I, Adam, we've always kind of had these conversations. We have these similar interests, right?
Right.
And again, we're children of the 80s, so a lot of it's that, and a lot of it's schlocky. Sometimes we get tired of diving into schlocky movies and we're like, want to just revisit like a gym, you know,
right?
Forgotten gems, or sometimes we haven't seen it at all and it just looks weird or interesting,
right?
But it's not so much about necessarily reviewing the movie or breaking down the movie, though it has that in it. What it ended up being, and you can see this with, and I don't want to like, it's not like performance art or anything like that. Sure. It's just, it's two man children basically discussing the movies that, you know, that had influence on them in their formative years or are interested in seeing. So like you can do with any form of art, right? It's like you might have like a vision in the beginning, but it morphs into something else like on its own, like organically. And I'm a big proponent of like letting that muse like push you in that direction. Like you can start a bit, like I'm in a band right now. Like I started a band several years ago. Me and the singer, like the two founding members, were like, we want to start like a 70s style, like Bowie era glam rock band. And like, that's not what it is at all.
No.
Right? It just kind of naturally progresses or evolves to something else.
Definitely.
And the same thing can be said about something like a podcast. So what I've kind of realized is what it is like Adam and I have a very like flawed friendship. Like our friendship is built on basically talking shit to each other. It really is. So
you're basically John Goodman and Roseanne.
If you
Roseanne Barr,
maybe.
I mean, that's for some reason that's, you know, where my mind jumped to.
Yeah, I mean, but it's more offensive than that show.
Oh, okay. Well, that show was pretty offensive.
Yeah, that was like one of the first lesbian kisses, huh?
Oh yeah, it was.
So it's more or less like two man children that are both very cynical, hamming it up for the audio, right? But exploring their flawed friendship and under the thin veil of a movie review.
There you go.
Because especially in like internet culture, like movie review shit, there's a lot of homogenization, right?
Right.
And then there's a lot of people that are just have bad content. There's a lot of people where it's like boring or a lot of those guys are like, again, like I'm not trying to discourage anyone from doing what they want to do with the internet. That's fine because that's the only way to get better at something. And I'm not tuning out like saying that we're awesome or anything. But at the end of the day, like there's a million podcasts or YouTube videos out there that are talking about like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Right.
So we want to kind of like break that mold and dive into maybe a little more obscure, maybe like just like not another one of those.
Yeah. But can we talk? But can we talk for a second about the scene in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre from like 2007, where the girl pulls the gun out of her vagina and then shoots herself in her face, and then the camera backs out through the hole in her skull, and that was like the first scene in the movie.
I saw that in 2007, and I feel like I should have remembered that scene.
Yeah, it was pretty. I didn't sleep for like 4 days after.
I remember not hating it.
The new one, the newest one. Yeah,
that's the thing too. It's like we're in this era of like sequels and prequels and reboots and soft reboots and whatever you want to call it. Like if it's good, it's still good, right?
It's so weird how we do live in an era of so many reboots and rehashed ideas and nostalgia baiting with movies, when the potential for so many interesting plots and premises are there. Just fucking write them.
Right, but the issue with that is like it's more lucrative from a business standpoint of the studios to just like make shit from a property that people already know and are familiar with.
Oh, it's so fucking weird.
Right, it's like they're literally like going through. They've almost completed the 80s canons, right?
Sure.
Like with the exception of like Thundercats, which I think there probably will be a movie for that eventually.
Definitely.
In some of the more obscure Saturday morning cartoon stuff, but you got like Transformers. They've redone fucking Ghostbusters, for Christ's sake. Like, I don't even want to like don't.
Yeah, we don't have to.
You sound like an MRA already.
Definitely a men's rights activist because I didn't like the new Ghostbusters.
Right.
That was objectively a pile of dog shit.
Objectively is the key word there.
Objectively dog shit.
But anyway, we're even moving into the 90s now because these studios are coming in and just like what property has merit? Like, what do people feel nostalgic for, right? And sometimes it's okay, sometimes it's good, but usually
there's
it's
not
just
a lot of courage. There's not a lot of courage in the writing department.
But that's the point. Is like there's no reason to. These big studios want to just like make shit for the masses to go out and see their movie to turn a profit, right?
Yeah.
And
but like, why was it? I mean, they wanted to make a profit in the 70s, 80s, 90s, but you still saw a lot of original franchises happening.
Right.
So what changed?
I think that like the way in which we quantify these things have changed. I think like spreadsheets and like focus groups and audience research, like all that kind of stuff has been honed in a lot more fine tuned, right? Especially with the dawn of the internet and computers and technology, that's just like we're just chasing this number, right?
Right.
It's not about art, and it's not necessarily about appealing to outliers like you and I who want something original, and that stuff's still out there.
How is that even an outlier thing? How is that just not a person thing? Like how I just don't understand. Like there have to be a lot of people that are just like, yeah, I would like an original movie to go see.
And there are. It's just what's ironic about the internet or the internet age or whatever is like most things that are targeted to the masses are going to be that homogenized thing we were talking about, right?
Right.
You just have to dig a little deeper to find, because the market's flooded with the whole spectrum, right?
Right.
And whatever is going to make the most money is what's going to be most risen to the top on some level.
Right.
But honestly, people criticize things like retargeted ads or like when you're on Facebook and like people like, hey, like you might like this shit because you like that shit. You know what I mean? Like that whole like targeting approach of advertisers or companies like that. On some level, I'm like, I almost appreciate it too.
Yeah, definitely.
Giving me the heads up about some obscure horror movie that I would have never seen in the first place or known about in the first place. Take the good with the bad.
Deathbed, the bed that eats people.
It's okay.
Have you seen that all the way through?
Yeah.
It's that Vulcan video. I'd love to rent it sometime. The only reason I know about it is because of that Patton Oswalt bit that he has.
Right.
And I was like, holy shit, that sounds like a fucking amazing movie to go see.
It's worth watching.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those movies that like and I haven't seen it in years, but it's one of those like movies that you would see at like a dive bar on mute with the closed captioning up in the corner of the bar.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, if you like schlocky horror movies, knock yourself out on that one.
Speaking of schlocky horror movies, and I don't know if this is how schlocky this is. By the way, I love that word. That's a good word.
Oh, I love it.
But I think my first memory speaking of being a child of the 80s and movies in that general ballpark, my first memory of a horror movie kind of in the Evil Dead kind of ballpark was, I think it was the Mother Knows Best. Was that the name of it? No Wire Hangers type deal? Like Mother Knows Best or something like that?
It rings a bell.
Mommy Dearest? Is that Mommy Dearest?
Yeah.
That was like one of the first movies I ever remember just being on TV. And I remember it just being the scariest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And then like around the same, I think it was like 1 week I was staying at my uncle's house, and it was that, and it was the original Evil Dead. And those were like the first two things that stuck out in my mind. And like the movies from that period, not necessarily Mommy Dearest, but I love how a lot of movies from that period, like Evil Dead, stuff like that, always were just like gratuitously violent, like super just like squishing heads until brains came out and stuff like that. And I just love how their special effects departments were like, we're just gonna do this,
right? And it wasn't about, I'm trying to word this correctly, like it wasn't about like violence for the sake of violence. Like it was, but like it was all practical. Like there was work involved in that,
right?
There was a process, and there was like passion behind it, and like that bleeds through, no pun intended, with anything, you know. Like you were talking about the Lumineers earlier. I'm like, this just sounds like some shit like, Wilco or like the Shins or whatever, or Modest Mouse were like a legitimate, paid their dues indie rock band. Let's let a studio try to like, hone that in and extort it.
Distill it.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically what a lot of places do, especially with music, is you take the elements of certain successful bands these days and you distill it into like a certain thing,
right? And I guarantee there's like companies out there, like or record producers or whatever you want to call it, studios that have data on like, what time signature do people respond to the most? Or
absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I was trying to tell somebody a few months ago about how there's formulas for super popular, like Nickelback songs are probably almost certainly written based on focus groups.
Oh, yeah.
And like formulas. And I was like, well, there's a specific formula you write a song in. And they were having like none of it. They're like, no, that doesn't happen.
And there's something wrong with
it. Does.
There's something wrong with following a formula that people respond to.
Yeah.
But it's like we're like with movies, it's like once you start like taking the humanity out of it, or like the realness, or the authenticity, or the real feeling, that's when like I think a lot of people either don't care or don't have the sense to recognize that.
What if there is a deep-seated link between art and pop culture that doesn't have anything real in it, and the homogenization of this is buckle up for this question.
No, I'm with you.
What if there is a link between the homogenization of pop culture and art in modern society and the uptick in psychopathic, completely devoid of empathy, mass killers out there, like mass shootings and shit like that?
Like there's a correlation?
What if there's a correlation between that?
Now, is it causality or is it...
I have no idea. I just thought of this question. The thing is we're talking about something completely subjective.
Right. I mean, I could see that being the case, because every time I hear Ed Sheeran, I want to jump out the fucking window.
Right. Like what if there's an uptick in mass shootings because like just the Lumineers are a thing that exists,
So what you're saying is like there's nothing sensed as like real to these people, or like authentic or genuine, like to scratch that itch on some level.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or
I don't even know.
Or at the very least, it doesn't help.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, it goes back to like you got to be dedicated to like finding it too, like finding the real shit as well.
Like what if what if the Vegas shooter did what he did because he saw that trailer for that movie with Robert De Niro and Anne Hathaway where they're just sitting around talking about Facebook the whole time? Did you see that shit? What if he just saw that and he was like, fuck it, this, I'm shooting like 500 people right now.
Like it honestly, it wouldn't shock me if like some of those types of things were the straw that broke the camel's back. Because I'm not going to say like I'm condoning or can relate to like, I get it though. Like it's like, fuck this.
Preface, none of that behavior is being condoned on this podcast.
Right.
But let's be honest and say that when you see stuff like that, it makes you want to punch a lot of things, Like, you kind of just want to punch a wall until there's nothing left to punch, or like until your hand is a bloody stump.
But it goes back to what I was saying earlier. It's like it's very important to learn how to prioritize that stuff and like respond responsibly to it, right?
Yeah. Also, maybe I have unresolved anger issues.
I mean, we all do. We all fucking do. Look, man,
let's go deep. Have you heard of Slavoj Zizek?
No.
Slavoj Zizek is the creator and narrator and host of the movie A Pervert's Guide to Ideology.
I've seen that.
So you've seen that.
I've seen bits and pieces of it. It's very good.
Okay, well, the guy narrating it, the Ukrainian guy.
Yeah.
That's Slavoj Zizek. He's a philosopher.
Yeah. I love that shit.
He's basically, his whole thing is like, well, our entire society is made up, and a lot of people will have an adverse reaction to that. Essentially is what he's saying. In a lot of his talks and lectures and shit like that, he used John Carpenter's "They Live" as an example.
Yeah, that was in the movie, right?
Right. So he talked about the glasses and stuff like that. And I think that's probably a subject that is the most important in the underlying themes of violence we see in modern society, and the outrage that we see, and the lashing out of a lot of people towards large groups of people that is never talked about. It is a theme, and it's a topic that is never discussed in any level, but it's always that undercurrent under everything. And I thought that was the most interesting thing about that movie.
How do you define how are you defining the undercurrent? Like, what does that mean exactly?
The underlying sense of angst that anybody gets as being a person that exists,
right?
Ever, and so your existence as a person, and how that smashes up against the fact that you live in a place that is essentially all made up. This is all just made up.
Right.
So by default, it's imperfect. Right.
Right.
So it's not really made to harbor life in the best way possible.
Right.
It's just kind of like the best thing we got right now.
But you have to understand, I don't want to use the cliche of yin and yang, but you need struggle and strife or hardship to progress or persevere past it, or create art, or
definitely,
you know what I mean? A lot of
Definitely.
these people these days want to talk about we have the technology for a utopian society, and everyone's going to be taken care of.
I don't want a utopia.
That's fucking neo-Marxist nonsense, because at the end of the day is if everyone's taken care of, what the fuck what are we doing?
What are you doing?
I know that sounds super selfish, but on a global scale, it's where's our inspiration for music or film?
That's so true. But that's the inverse of that too. So it's those two things that are constantly pushing and pulling. It's I need to go do something to make my life worth living, and then the other side is holy shit, everything we've already made up is basically contrived.
Right.
So how do you deal with that as a person?
And I always wanted to throw this at you, because I feel like you're the only person that could kind of hang with this. Not to sound like a pretentious intellectual fuck, but most people I try to explain this to look at me like I'm fucking crazy. But this is a thing I've been kicking around for a few years now, and I don't know if I'm sure some other philosopher or something has come up with this on some level, at least.
Yeah.
But I'm under the impression now. I'm glad we're recording this, because I'm trying to figure out how to articulate it the best way.
Sure.
I'm under the impression now that okay, your circumstances, your political beliefs, your religious beliefs, your convictions, your morals, your standards, whatever it is, we all play a role or are a plot on this spectrum, right? And we're all necessary on that spectrum.
Sure.
You follow so far?
Sure.
And the reason we're all necessary on that spectrum is because ultimately we're moving in a direction. And when we move in a direction, that's called progress, more or less.
Right.
Now, you cannot have progress without resistance. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no, it would just be stagnant then.
Friction generates heat.
Exactly. It's entropy, right?
Heat is life, right?
So let me use a micro example. Okay, let's say that we, tomorrow, we all decided as a nation, we're going to go on alternative fuel sources. We're going to get rid of fossil fuels. We're going to go completely green, completely clean, wind, solar, air, whatever. What would happen?
A lot of people would be angry because they don't own that technology.
Yes, but more specifically, the fucking economy would collapse.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And people wouldn't be able to get to work because they all have fossil fueled cars.
Yeah.
And a lot of people would be out of a job. And my point is this, it's you have to have this tug of war within the spectrum to move things forward in a healthy way.
Yeah.
You can't just flip the switch. That's how people get killed. That's an abrupt revolution at that point.
Yeah, that's how you end up with Venezuela.
Next time you yell at your dad for voting for Trump, which I've done. Just remember, it's you can't just like abruptly change things, and you probably aren't going to be at your desired result in your own lifetime either.
Yeah.
And by the time you are at the desired result, if you are in the lifetime, there's going to be another fucking struggle within that tug of war on the spectrum.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It makes absolute sense. I heard a friend say to me once, and I don't know where he got this from, but the long arc of history bends towards justice.
Right.
And I think that's a good way to look at it. And I think a lot of times it's very easy because you're able to look at everything all the time. Like you're fucking Bruce Wayne in the Batcave. You can have like 14,000 screens in front of you.
Right.
That it's very easy to think in a macro level, but maybe like fucking stop doing that. Maybe just worry about your own shit.
Right.
And things will be cool. Because that's usually how it goes anyway.
And not to virtue signal, but like, okay, we have the Women's March literally today, which is fine. Like, do your thing. Like, but I feel like more like change or social revolution for the better or whatever. Like it's done through like charity, like actual like going out and helping other people.
Yeah.
It's not like this, like, I mean, again, I get it. I totally get it. And I believe in the power of protest or marching for a cause or whatever. But like at the end of the day, like you have to take action on some level locally.
Yeah. Or just personally too.
Right.
If every one of those people marching and if anyone that ever marches for any cause just makes the decision to be a better person themselves, you don't have to march.
And that shit
not that you shouldn't,
and right,
but that statements
that
are powerful,
can spread like wildfire too.
Sure,
if you make that the norm,
I think marches are a good way to gather an idea in one place,
or recruit or make awareness.
Definitely, and
but I don't think you're gonna like overturn things by marching necessarily.
No, definitely not. But it's sometimes it's extremely important.
I agree. This country was built on protest.
Yeah, I was watching. I was watching My Next Guest with David Letterman. First episode he did with Obama.
I've been curious about that.
And it's a great episode, man. And there was a bridge that they had marched across in '64, and there is either a senator or a congressman who is an African American senator or congressman that marched across that bridge in '64 or something like that. Obama gave a speech at that bridge a few years ago, and I think it's in Mississippi, and for the life of me I can't remember which bridge it is, but I remember reading the history about it after watching that episode, and it was a landmark. It was a landmark kind of time where like it kind of turned the tide because it brought people together under one idea, right?
And that's great.
Yeah, it's insane, man. It's insane how marches are this thing where you can gather an idea together, and then also you still got to do shit afterwards.
Right. I mean, your work's not done, because I was at the Women's March after Trump got elected, right?
A year ago.
That was a year ago. Yeah, literally a year ago, huh? Yeah. And I get it, man. Like I'd never really been to a protest before or a march like that. Like it's electric.
Yeah.
Like people are like, you feel something at that thing. And I think that on some level, or we're going to call them SJWs or whatever, like I think people like get addicted to that just like you would World of Warcraft on some level, like the validation and the community and the tribalism and just the electricity of that whole experience.
Sure. Yeah. And some of them also, they just need an excuse to be a dick.
That's the thing too, is like, I don't understand this whole like, I don't like good
that was my throat.
Good intentions with bad ideas or like bad execution. Like you don't, like you're never gonna fucking like convince someone of something or like bring them to your perspective by like pointing the finger at them.
I just think I think identity politics in general, if we're on that subject, like it's just an ineffective way to one, look at the world and two, solve any sort of problem. I just don't think it's effective. Like it's just like religion in the sense that like I don't think religion is an effective way to gather people under a certain power structure.
Right. And
it just doesn't work very well.
Going back to my like plot pointed spectrum of progress theory that I was talking about earlier, I was like, things like religion or ideology or, whatever you subscribe to, like over the entire like span of human history has basically been like an operating system on a computer.
Sure.
Right. So for that point in time, those circumstances of those people in creating that, a cooperative community, like it was necessary to, and I'm spitballing here. I don't fucking know. I'm just like theorizing. And just like what I was saying with like the tug of war and moving past that, like you still have to have like some sort of transition, like healthy transition with it.
Right. A lot of movements are weird. Some movements probably shouldn't even exist. And some movements are just a way to make people feel validated and important.
Right.
Some of them are pretty important. I don't know. Who am I to say what's important and what's not?
And that's, that's the byproduct of the internet too, is like, okay, not to like, beat a dead horse, because I know you on several occasions have talked about the flat earthers on your podcast, right?
And also I have a dead horse.
And you have
so I don't want to talk about my dead
butter
horse,
stuff.
But yeah. Butter stuff. Buttercup.
Hey girl, you hungry?
Oh no. That's not true. I don't have a horse. I don't know how to ride a horse.
What was I saying? But it's weird how like there's less merit in objective fact anymore.
Yeah, it's weird.
Because why would you be interested in that when you can just join this faction on the internet that validates your ideas or accepts you into their community?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Am I getting too like
no, you're not,
drunken, slurried, and
no, because a lot of people that listen to stuff like this are the ones that are interested in just like
right.
I've found that people that are into podcasts a lot typically aren't that ideological.
Right.
It's weird. It's a weird thing. If you're into like free, unrestrained speech on the internet from people that probably aren't dickheads, then you're usually just into taking in viewpoints from everywhere that aren't necessarily your own and kind of just learning.
Right.
So.
And I think that like podcast culture in general, or the audience or podcasters, is like, we're generally like curious people.
Yeah.
And it's about like hearing, like I listen to everything from fucking, El Chapo Trap House, which is a very like left-wing political podcast, to like Ben Shapiro.
Sure.
And everything in between.
Sure. Kind of take it all on. That's like my Twitter feed.
Right.
My Twitter feed is like the Young Turks to Ben Shapiro. It's just like everything.
Right. It's everything. It's like you have to like, you cannot just join a side because it feels good, right? Like you can have conviction, you can have your foundational morals, but like why not discuss it? Why not like try to figure out where someone else is coming from in a situation?
Yeah. Just the need to, if you can let go of the need to want to be right all the time, if you could just let go of that,
right,
and just be like, well, I'm a person that's here.
Right.
And, maybe I don't know everything.
Right.
But what do you think?
Right.
And if you just kind of look at it from that angle, not only is it just helpful to understand what's actually going on, but also it just makes life more enjoyable. And you might you just sleep better.
You might even say you get smarter by admitting your own ignorance.
Yeah.
Because you think about people that are like, okay, let's take the cliche Trump supporter, right? Mm-hmm. Let's take the cliched MAGA hat fucking that guy. Yeah. From like Mobile, Alabama or whatever.
Yeah.
That guy does not fucking care about reading into left-wing politics.
Sure, definitely.
And I don't necessarily agree with left-wing politics all the time, but I want to navigate those waters to like, or right-wing, whatever it is. Yeah. One, to be able to like debate it if need be, or bring up other people and other people's perspectives or whatever it may be. But like people that are less curious are generally, it's like that thing, like the dumbest people are always the loudest.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's switch gears for a second, because I got some questions for you. Okay, you're
end of the Zeitgeist talk.
Yeah, I don't know.
That was the No Pants Podcast Zeitgeist talk, brought to you by Bobby Pearson and Andrew Dalton.
We're all slaves.
We're going into third gear here.
Let's lighten up a bit.
Let's lighten up for a bit.
So, is this your beer or mine?
That's yours. I have the Astros World Series champion koozie that I was gifted for Christmas. Thanks, Mom. And I take this everywhere in case somebody hands me a beer in a bottle. Anyway.
Okay, so here's what I'm starting to like conceptualize for myself, and I think a lot of people out there may be able to relate, but like I feel like adulthood is basically you feeling like a fraud or a hack.
Yeah.
And trying to make sure other people don't sense that.
Yeah, I mean that's essentially what it is, yeah.
And I think that's by design. It's like your self-doubt motivates you to move or progress forward.
Definitely.
Whereas like a narcissist or a sociopath, like I'm the best, like there's no reason for that or whatever.
Yeah.
So that being said, okay, you're a musician, right?
Sure.
You're a bass player?
Sure.
And you're like a damn good bass player in a lot of like good, rock and roll bands, right? And as far as like my guitar playing, for example, like I still have that like hacky feeling.
Yeah.
But I know for a fact that I'm technically not a fantastic guitar player, but I can bullshit my way and play in punk rock bands.
Sure.
So my question to you is like, with someone of your skill level, like say you're going out to see a show.
Sure.
Are you ever like, holy shit, like I'm a fucking fraud, I'm a hack because that guy's like so much better than me?
Yeah, a lot of times, yeah.
Right.
Definitely. As far as just like bass players go, watching other bass players, I definitely do a lot of times, definitely. But I would say that a lot of times too, I think the more you go about doing it, the more you kind of realize what your style is and what your kick is. And so you kind of just appreciate, like these days, I used to do that a lot more. But I'm a little older now, and so when I see somebody that's like super good, typically they don't play the same style that I do.
Right.
And they don't kind of do the same things in their bands that I do in my bands.
So you basically develop like a comfort or a security in your own.
Yeah, like for instance, like I'm a very feel-based bass player. So like I'm not all over the fretboard all the time.
Right.
I'm not the most technically proficient bass player.
Okay.
But what I don't have in that department, I feel like I make up for it in like feel and like rhythm and groove and shit like that.
Yeah.
And just being able to slide between notes and just being like, essentially I want to be like the Greg Maddox of bass players where you're just all finesse, And so,
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, he's a doctor, man. He's a doctor on the mound. So,
surgeon.
Yeah, they're surgeon, And so, I listen to a lot of very groove-based things throughout my, life. And so I've taken in a lot of that. So, a lot of soul and funk and blues and groovy rock and rolls to where it's like they're not super busy. So a lot of times I see somebody that's like really, really good and I appreciate them. But I'm not necessarily like, oh, I'm invalidated because of that. I just like, dude, you're fucking awesome. And you're incredible.
Okay.
And I try, and this is a thing that I try to do. I don't do it all the time, but I try to just not think about myself if I can. But I mean, of course, I'm a person.
But
so
you're still like, you're like
lot,
healthily introspective, I think, though. It's not like an insecurity thing, but it's still like you think about the world and your relationship with the world.
Sure.
More so than the average fucking asshole out there, right?
I try to. Yeah, I mean, definitely. I don't want to find myself not doing that one day. I think that's when you kind of stop growing.
Right. Exactly. And it's just like, again, that double-edged sword, the yin and yang. It's like you got to fucking doubt yourself to get better at things.
I think being older, you said adulting and being an adult and blah blah and stuff like that. I think being older is just acknowledging that the feeling of being a fraud or just what we can just call insecurity, right? Never really goes away. You just kind of learn to deal with it openly and honestly because you at the same time you just gain confidence in yourself and your own abilities with certain things. And so you're just like, yeah, I'm insecure as fuck. What about you? Are you being honest too? Yeah, you're insecure as fuck too. We're all insecure as fuck, but there's nothing to hide. It's just like, yeah, sure, that's just what we are. We're people. Yeah, and you just get more comfortable with it.
Right.
It's never, when you're younger, you think it goes away, and it really doesn't. You just get more comfortable with it, and you just get more comfortable with yourself.
And that can contribute positively as well.
I think that's just a positive way to roll with it.
Well, my point is like I think that there's like very, very few, even less than we give credit for. I think there's very few people on this planet that actually feel like they know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
with the exception of like from a musical standpoint, like Eddie Van Halen knows what the fuck he's doing.
Even very successful people still, I think if they got to get a head on their shoulders, they still don't know they still don't feel like they know what the fuck they're doing,
right?
In a general sense,
right? And again,
occupationally, occupationally, you might definitely know what the fuck you're doing. Like, okay, Joe Rogan definitely knows what the fuck he's doing when putting on podcasts.
Well, I think he would be a an outlier in this scenario.
Definitely.
He'd
but
be
like,
one of the
I'm
few.
just thinking of a hyper successful person.
Right.
But generally speaking, if you talk to him personally, he's like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Right.
You know,
You just do it.
like he's just doing it. And you can just kind of figure it out along the way.
Well, what made you like just up and start podcasting?
It's for me is probably more than it is providing entertainment for everybody else.
Right.
Because I got to a point where personally, I just figured I knew a lot of people that are, I just think they're amazing. Like I just really like sincerely think I know a lot of amazing people.
I'm glad I made the cut.
Yeah, dude. Well, and not that people I don't have on this podcast aren't amazing, but are, yeah. But I just was like tired of seeing people out at shows. A lot of times when I go out these days, I'm usually just because I'm gigging or I'm checking out somebody else's music show. Because I just live in a city. We live in a city with an amazing music scene, and so there's literally there's a show to go to every night if you want to.
Right.
And I got tired of knowing so many people with stories to tell and only getting 5 minutes behind a bar with loud music playing to actually talk to them.
Totally.
So this was a thing where I can sit down and actually talk to somebody one-on-one. How many times do you get to actually talk to somebody one-on-one these days?
Very few.
Very little. You don't get that time at all. If you think about it, anybody listening to this, think about the last time you just got to sit down and talk to somebody one-on-one. Even if you want to go hang out with somebody, usually they're like, well, can this friend come and can this friend come? I'm like, yeah, cool. But like, I kind of just wanted to talk to you because I don't know, man. I feel like the more shit gets crazier these days with all your phones and everything. I think the time you spend just kind of sitting down and talking to somebody is very, it's cathartic to me.
And it's few and far between.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying this is for me as much as it's for anybody else listening, because it's like, this is a cathartic time for me. I like sitting down and learning from other people.
Right. And like you're saying, like in any other scenario, people are checking their phone or like fucking dicking off, talking to other people.
You can't even go out to eat without somebody looking at their phone half the time.
Right. And I'm no angel as far as that goes.
I do that all the time
I don't
too.
judge people for that, but it just is what it is. But like, okay, so the environment we're in right now is literally like you have a mixer, a computer, and we have 2 microphones. We haven't touched our phones once. Yeah. And we feel obligated to have a fucking conversation because there's microphones in front of us.
Yeah, definitely.
And again, I get how you say it's like it's for you, and it's like whoever, like, okay, here's what I was going to say. Nobody sits down and like starts writing songs for other people. Yeah. When they first start. Right? Would that be fair to say?
Yeah,
it's like
definitely.
therapeutic for themselves.
Sure.
And then maybe if they're lucky or talented organically, that will like snowball into something lucrative or like recognition or something. Yeah, yeah. And the same thing can be said for what we're doing right now.
Definitely. I mean, I'm not starting this with, I don't know what's going to happen with this. I have no idea. Right. Do I have a way better picture of what's going to happen with it than I did 10 episodes ago? Definitely. I'm kind of getting a picture of where this can go. Right. And it's pretty cool. Let me tell you. Right. But I'm not telling any of you guys yet. It's in my head. But
it's literally a matter of just like having ideas and like sitting down and just fucking doing it.
Yeah. And it relates to anything. I think it relates to anything you do. It's a weird thing when you just actually do something instead of thinking about it. Because I do a lot of thinking about stuff. But there are very few things that I've actually really, really done. And this, podcast is one of them. I'm very early in this process. And music is my other thing. Where that's something I've consistently done for a long time, since, goddamn, 14, 15 years ago. Right. I went into a pawn shop and bought a bass guitar at the time because I just wanted a way to get laid. And I was 19. I was like, I don't need to get laid. I'm not good at sports. I'm fucking, Right. Well, I'll be in a band. And so, but now that whole thing is a completely different animal than when I was, and I'm far more in love with being a musician now than I was 14 years ago. And there's something about sitting down and doing whatever it is, like whatever kind of task you're like really into. And I mentioned this before on other episodes, but it's like, it's a weird thing where like your subconscious kind of tells you need to do something.
Oh yeah.
Like it's a weird thing where it's like, it's just like, oh, I have to do this. And so you get obsessed, and then all of a sudden you're obsessed with something and you just can't stop.
Like on that note, like, okay, so I have a podcast, right? As we mentioned, like we usually record on the weekends, and like when I have time, when I don't have to go to work or whatever, I wake up craving like wanting to fucking edit it and get it out there.
Definitely.
People talk about whether it be film or audio or whatever, like editing is such a fucking pain in the ass. I'm like, I fucking love it.
Right.
I like taking the pieces and making it into a thing.
It listenable. Yeah.
But I wanted to segue in this because like probably a little over a year ago, before I started my podcast, it was always like something that I always try to do. Like right out of college, I did some like movie review vlog type stuff, and thank God I took them down because it's probably terrible. But like, okay, so I was in a really bad place in my head.
Yeah.
Like I was working like a job that wasn't really working out. I was trying to buy a house at the same time. Like I was just dealing with a lot of shit.
Sure.
And I've always been an anxious person in general.
Sure.
And then eventually one day, like my girlfriend's just like, you need to go to the fucking doctor. Like this is out of control. You need to figure your shit out. And the best way I can describe it is like, have you ever been to like a movie or a concert where you're like, you're vested in the time and you want to finish it out, but at the same time it's going on way too long and you just want to get the fuck out of there and go home?
Definitely.
That's how I felt no matter what I was doing throughout the day, right?
Right.
Even when I go to like band practice, which in theory, like my heart took me there, but my brain was just like, fuck this. Like this is just another chore. This is some other shit I have to go do.
Definitely.
And like, you jam for about 30 minutes. You're like, I get the fuck out of here. Like I just want to like go sit in my bed and like watch YouTube videos or whatever. So eventually I get to the doctor and it's like incredibly easy to get SSRIs, antidepressants.
Really?
And I'm not saying this is like, you should go get drugs or whatever, but like I'm a big fucking like proponent of like, if you need them, fucking go get them. Because what ends up happening is like, okay, you take like a 6-question survey to basically like quantify how you're feeling and make sure you're not manic depressant or like bipolar 1 or whatever. And then the doctor comes and like, she comes in, sure enough, she's like, yep, you have severe anxiety and mild depression. I'm like, oh, that's what that is.
Gotcha.
That's what that is.
Yeah.
Okay. So I get on meds and like within the first 3 days of being on it, I'm just like, holy shit. Like, is this what it's going to be like all the time? Like, I feel like a fucking corgi on a sailboat, no matter what I'm doing. I'm just like, for whatever reason, during that time, I was just like pumping fucking NWA in my car, just like rolling in my Honda and shit.
Right.
And then it eventually levels out. But my point is this, like, it got me to the point where I'm like, I'm just going to fucking start doing the shit I've been talking about doing.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas it was like retarding me from, is that the right word? Like it was...
Well, retarding you is a retarded music is when you taper off the music, right?
Right.
So yeah, that's a good word for it.
Right. So it was like before I was medicated, it was like I want to do all these things, but I fucking don't want to.
Sure.
I don't know if that makes sense.
It absolutely makes sense, man. I know absolutely what you're talking about. It's a thing where you're just like, it's just a thing stopping you. I'm not medicated on anything, but I assume I might have a mild, thing of depression.
Right.
I think a lot of people.
I think everyone does on some level.
Yeah, sure. And so, I think everybody can relate to that. I think I have a feeling mine's pretty malleable and I can just like, I got a
self-medicate
job
with Sour Monkey.
There you go. I got a job waiting tables recently, and that's what I do for my day job.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that I think my kind of mental state is very malleable, and all I really need is kinetic energy.
Mm-hmm.
Because I started waiting tables where it's like when you're doing that, you're walking like 10 miles a day, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I'm at work, I'm walking 6 to 10 miles a day. And for whatever reason, my brain is like, cool, now we're going.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's something about having kinetic energy. And a lot of people listening to this might be like, well, fucking duh, dude. This is called exercise. It's like, yeah, well, sure. But, you got
to get off your ass.
Sometimes you need that fucking push. And actually, I've found that having a job where I'm constantly walking and having to think about 8 different things at once, right, is tremendous at impacting the other parts of my life where I'm like, oh, I got to get this done. I got to get this done. I gotta get this done. So it's not necessarily like I have to wait tables to be productive, but the fact that I did get a job like that where I did, started about 6 months ago, was tremendous and kind of yanking the chain on like, oh, cool. So where you're almost more comfortable doing something than you are in bed. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So basically, by necessity, you're acclimating yourself to a situation where you have to multitask and be on your feet and run around and fucking wait on, like do whatever that's required of you in your job, and that transcends into your like off the clock life as well.
Having your heart shattered by an ex-girlfriend is definitely a good catalyst too for just like focusing on work, and just because one you're just like, well, fuck, I have no other choice but to focus on this, so I don't like fall into a pit of misery and eat 5 bags of Lay's chips in bed. And also two, you have your life back again, especially if you're in a relationship with the wrong person,
right?
Where like the right person, like if you're in a relationship with the right person is like, oh, this is what you love, you should do this a lot, and they're like pushing you towards it because they see that that's what turns you on,
or at the very least they're neutral about it.
Sure, right. And so, but the wrong person is like, why aren't you spending more time with me? And you're
right.
Like, well, because I love this thing that I'm doing, and so when you're out of that dynamic and you have your life back, then you're just like, oh man, this is what I was missing. I was missing the time to be able to do this, So, yeah, man, I just think it's about whatever kind of keeps you going, dude.
Right, and like I've kind of tried to train myself to look at things big picture, like as far as those kind of experiences, whether it be heartbreak or a job that doesn't work out, or like just hardship in general. Like we're still here, right?
Yeah,
we've come out on the other side.
You always do,
and it's that cliche of like whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But like it's fucking kind of true. Like it all happened to like prep you for further shit down the line.
Yeah, definitely. It is a cliche. I think a lot of cliches are just good to use because they're true, man.
Like stereotypes.
Yeah, stereotypes are generally true. But yeah, man, I'm not one to shy away from using cliches. I think a lot of cliches are there for a reason. So yeah, man. As far as doing this and stuff like that, I don't know. There's something about like putting together a well edited, well produced thing that's like really fucking fun. Right when you hear it, and
again, it's not for everyone.
No,
plug my shit again.
Or sometimes you don't wear pants.
Right, yeah.
You're listening to that podcast, though. So.
You know what? You know how I like decided to take my pants off at the beginning of this podcast?
Well, I mean, they're still on, but...
Right. But I do that. I planned to do that for like weeks when we started like talking about me getting on this show. I was like, I'm going to start taking my pants off like right when we go live.
I did the episode before this. Aaron from a band called Major Grizz, just like, we're gonna take our pants off. I was like, all right.
Oh man, he already took it.
Yeah, he already did the first.
God
the first
damn
pantsless.
It.
Yeah.
Fuck that guy.
I got to do like 5 women after this because my last 2 guests have just been large bearded men. So the future is female, at least for the No Pants podcast here.
I think we're 2 or 3 sour monkeys in now.
I've had 2 sour monkeys. This is fantastic beer. You should come see Otis Wilkins tonight.
I'm going to plan on it.
Are you coming?
I'm going to try.
A buddy of mine from New Orleans, his name is Sam. He plays in a band called Bantam Foxes, is coming. And we're going to have a lot of friends there, so you should come out. Okay. Come do it. Drink some more beer.
Is this your way of wrapping it up?
No, not. It is. We need to wrap it up in the next 10 minutes. But this is, you should come to that show, which will be 5 days in the past by the time anyone hears this, but whatever. I'm also going to edit it, so maybe this part won't even be in there. So
all right, whatever you got to do.
Yeah.
But what I was saying is like the inverse of like the freedom of, and I'll make this quick. The inverse of the freedom of getting out of a bad situation or a bad relationship or whatever it is, and feeling like that weight has been lifted. You also have to like, when you're in a good situation, you also have to understand that like it's not always fucking rainbows and butterflies and unicorns either.
No.
It's good if it's just kind of a level. Like, I'm not saying like lower your standards or like don't have high expectations of other people, but like realistically speaking, like find someone that like lets you do your shit, doesn't have a problem with it, and like you like hanging out with them. And it's really that simple. It doesn't have to be like fucking dopamine all day long.
Sure.
Because it's not going to be.
Oh man, a lot of people are chasing that fucking dragon, dude.
Oh yeah, dude. That's all we do. All we do is chase dragons.
Yo, you in a Ryan Reynolds movie? You in a fucking Ryan Reynolds movie right now?
I don't get it.
Just people trying to think they're in a Ryan Reynolds movie when it comes to relationships.
Right. Just friends. Do you think Waiting holds up?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure.
All right, anyway.
Yeah, it was a good movie. But yeah, I always just thought love was a choice, man. If you like the person you're with and you choose to love them, you can kind of make it through anything.
Yeah, and don't waste anyone's time.
You know? Yeah, it's like the George Strait song. Our love was unconditional. We knew it from the start. You know, You see it in my mind. You can hear it in my heart.
God damn.
From here on after. It's I forgot it.
That's fine.
But I crossed my heart and promised to. Okay, that's it. I'm not gonna
I like
sing
how
it.
like 90s country, like, okay, so real quick. Real quick. I remember growing up in the 90s and I was like a fucking classic rock, punk rock kid or whatever,
Yeah.
like metal or whatever. Like we would make fun of like country music so hard at that time.
Yeah.
And now that I'm older, like, and I hear the shit that's on country radio stations now, like 90s country sound might as well be fucking Mozart. Like it's
Definitely.
like George Strait's, your Garth Brooks, like whatever it might be, like the stuff we used to make fun of, like compared to like Florida Georgia Line or like
Dude, this
Jason
is the second
Aldean.
time Florida Georgia Line's been mentioned on this podcast.
Oh my
It's so
god,
funny.
dude!
It's pretty bad, man.
But it's like I can't blame him for chasing that paycheck
Or chasing that neon rainbow.
or that Dodge Neon.
Honky tonk dream. Garth Brooks' Shameless is like one of the best written country songs I've ever heard.
I need to listen to that. I don't know that one.
Garth Brooks Shameless, dude.
I love that production value of 90s country.
It's just. Oh, the lap steel. It's just like a cascading waterfall.
Yeah.
The bass guitar, it's punchy, it's full, you know, and then. Oh man, that delay on that voice.
I'm not gonna say I've never listened to 90s country with like nice headphones.
Yeah, man, it's incredible. You think about the production value that goes into this shit. They're basically magicians, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we won't play too much of that because copyright law and whatnot.
What is that? Because
I don't know how that works.
I always heard it's 30
feel like I
seconds
just shouldn't
and then it's
play
not.
other. Yeah, I feel like I shouldn't play a lot of this.
I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah, I don't either.
On my
I should-
podcast, I'll play like the theme from the movie we watched. Like
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, I don't think anyone gives a shit.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Let's turn it up.
Anyway,
Yeah, let's fuck it. You know. I feel like if somebody from Garth Brooks' legal department was like, "You should stop doing that," I should just be happy. Like,
yeah,
oh,
if that
somebody
happens, it means you fucking are getting paychecks for this shit right now.
yeah, that. Oh, can that happen? Yeah. Oh, I should get a good lawyer so I could just be like, "Well, you should pay me." So,
No, what I'm saying is like if anyone catches wind of the fact that you're using this Garth Brooks song,
yeah.
it means because you're blowing up, son.
Oh, blowing up.
All right, turn that shit off
Okay.
before I
That
start
song,
crying.
I have a theory that song is actually a funk song. I think a lot of country songs are funk songs disguised as country songs. You could cover that song. You could cover that song as a funk song very easily. You can also do Brooks and Dunn's Neon Moon. Mm-hmm. So you could do this is a funk song.
It's a funk bass line.
Yeah, that's Motown.
Yeah.
That's straight up Motown.
That reminds me. God damn, that sounds so good.
Right?
I'm guys listening. Whoever's listening, if you want to like naysay 90s country, get some good headphones.
Get some good
And
headphones.
then talk to me after that.
Get high as giraffe pussy too.
Okay, let me tell you what I've been doing lately.
Yeah.
I've been partaking in things of that nature.
Right.
I got one of those VR headsets. You with me?
Oh yeah.
Like a VR headset where you put your phone in it.
Definitely.
And I'll find like super psychedelic stuff on YouTube.
There you go.
In VR.
Yeah.
And then I'll headphone like surf rock. And just fucking go for a ride.
Oh, absolutely. Buckle up, dude. Buckle up.
It's a healthy way to unwind.
Here's the chorus.
This podcast is like disheveled into something.
Oh man, I like it, man. Just let it go where it goes.
Yeah.
Gather you roads buzz while you may.
I'm sorry, but like,
I watched Dead Poet Society. I had to quote Walt Whitman.
I got you.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, traditional country music, usually 60s or classic country before 50s, 60s country,
Yeah.
and Motown or just like early soul or blues, like
Yeah.
you can't fuck with it.
No.
objectively you can't fuck with it. Like,
you really can't.
There's people that are into whatever they're into on like a niche level.
Yeah.
But like, if you don't like that shit, that real shit, like you're not a fan of music.
No.
Like everything like Hank Williams, Jamie Rogers, fucking Jackie Wilson, fucking Sam Cooke, Stevie Wonder, like that whole spectrum, like Motown and classic country.
Yeah.
It is like,
I think the 90s were, I think this was a good era for country too. I think you had a lot of guys, dude. You had a lot of guys. Okay, one of my favorite guys was Sammy Kershaw. Do you remember Sammy Kershaw? So Sammy Kershaw was this guy right here. So
this shit's awesome already.
Yeah. Sammy Kershaw just wanted to be George Jones. If you listen to his voice, like listen to this motherfucker wanted to be George Jones.
It's good here to have.
Yeah, and it's a good, if you're going country,
look at them boots.
Yeah, man.
Going country.
He wanted to be George Jones, and you had a lot of guys that just wanted to be George Jones.
Well, look at like Dwight Yoakam.
Yeah, absolutely.
He wants to be Buck Owens or more like Bakersfield era shit, and it's fucking awesome.
Oh man, I every time Dwight Yoakam comes in town, I'm like, I'm gonna go see Dwight Yoakam.
I've seen him a couple times, and it's great.
Yeah,
I saw him the day after Merle Haggard died, and he did like a 2-hour set, and like probably 30% of it was Merle Haggard covers.
Yeah. God, man, I wish Merle was still here.
God, man, I wish
he could do a tour with Dwight. Did he ever tour with Dwight Yoakam?
It wouldn't shock me if he did.
No.
Listen to that voice. This is not. There's no rap breakdowns in this.
The country guys like this have that voice it's goddamn silk, dude. And they learn how to control it very well. You can't be you can't replicate. Like, you can't sing like Dwight Yoakam.
No.
You can't sing like Garth Brooks. Like,
you can do an impression, but you're going to do it badly. Or like Roy Orbison. Holy shit. Like, go listen to fucking Blue Bayou with headphones on.
Right.
And like, I don't know.
We need to, we need to do another episode of this.
Of just like us
with
back and forth.
With Mr. Isaac James Ruth.
Okay.
And we need to basically just do an episode where we break down country music.
That's fine.
And then we could do another episode where we just break down other genres of music.
Isaac doesn't like The Who.
Isaac's not big on The Who?
No.
I mean, that doesn't surprise me.
And he's also more Beatles than Stones, which is fine, but
that's fine.
That's not my camp.
Well, I mean, as far as like Beatles versus Stones, I don't subscribe.
We could do a whole episode on that.
Do a whole episode of that. Let's wrap this up, but first I want to ask you specifically if I could come on the Not For Everyone podcast and discuss a genre of movie that's very close to my heart, which is 90s action.
Yeah.
In my last episode, we watched a lot of Oasis videos before we taped. And the thing about Oasis that I loved is that they remind me of like John Woo villains.
Okay.
They just like Oasis, like Liam Gallagher just looks like Pollux Troy to me.
Right.
And like that whole kind of aesthetic with 90s villains where they kind of like a lot of 90s action directors made their villains look like they were just rock stars. Right. And a lot of doves and things like that. Also movies like I watched Executive Decision the other day.
Fucking Kurt Russell.
With Kurt Russell and stuff like that. And I just wanted to know if I could come on. I got to come on and we got to talk about like we could talk about it briefly here, but like the whole thing with 90s action where they would just pass off lines in a way that was like serious, like too serious. Like they took themselves way too seriously in the 90s action movies.
Yep.
A lot of dissenting Republican advisors in a lot of action movies,
Yeah.
We can't do this because of budget concerns, things like that. A lot of very like serious things. I think there's something specifically about 90s action that is like very fucking hilarious.
And yeah, like you're right. And I've never really realized this till now, but like if you look at some of the concepts for those movies and how seriously they take themselves, like Drop Zone with Wesley Snipes or fucking Speed.
So serious.
Keanu Reeves Speed.
So serious.
That should be fucking like a schlocky like exploitation film, but they take themselves super seriously.
If you watch it,
The Rock.
The Rock, where he's
The only good Michael Bay film.
Nicolas Cage was like kneeling down at the edge of the rock, like holding crazy amounts of chemical weapons in his hands,
right,
while F-18s drop bombs over him, and he was like praying to the sky.
It's insane.
Hey, what are you doing, buddy? What are you doing right now? What are you doing in this scene? What is going on? There's like an Arabian woman singing in the background. A lot of like slow motion while Arabian women sing in the background.
And when it came out, we were just kind of conditioned to it. Like, oh, this is what movies look like. Look at the same kind of era with Nick Cage's Con Air.
Yeah.
Like, look at the concept of that film objectively and tell me that's not a fucking exploitation film.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I mean?
100%. We need to do a specific movie for that episode.
Okay, what's that?
I don't know. Which one should we do? Can I request one?
Sure.
Fucking Face Off.
Yeah. That fits.
Can we watch Face Off and talk about that?
Yeah.
Just talk about it. Because there's so many things in that movie where I'm just like, really? This is happening right now? Mm-hmm. But at the time you watch it, you're like, this is kind of badass. Like that was one of the first movies like that, and Point Break. Point Break, I have an older stepbrother. He's about 7-8 years older than me. And he would wake me up in the late 90s to like let me watch R-rated movies with him. And because our parents were in bed, and he was just like being he was like fucking the coolest older brother, ever. Right. So he would wake me up and I'd watch Point Break. I was like, holy shit. One night he woke me up, we watched Face Off together.
Is this Luke?
No, this is Luke is younger than me.
Okay.
This is my oldest brother, Chris. Shout out to Chris if he's listening. Hey, but hello. He's probably not, but whatever. And so he would always, sometimes, not always, but sometimes he would wake me up and we'd watch these movies. And I remember being up late one night watching Face Off with them and just thinking it was the most badass thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And then I watched it as an adult 25 years later, and I'm like, well, this is kind of shitty. This is kind of hilarious, man.
Yeah.
It's hilarious in a shitty way. Shitty in a hilarious way.
That's better than just being shitty.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
I remember one night, real quick. I know we're gonna wrap this up.
Yeah.
First of all, let me ask you this: What was the first R-rated movie you saw?
The first R-rated movie I ever saw was Point Break.
Oh yeah, that's a good.
Yeah, definitely.
Mine was also Keanu Reeves' movie.
There you go. Which
Speed.
One? Okay.
But I remember one time in college, we for whatever reason, someone found a copy of Never Ending Story on DVD.
Yeah.
And a group of us were like, we're just gonna get like stoned to the gills and watch Never Ending Story tonight because we haven't seen it since we were kids.
Sure.
We got like 20 minutes into this. We're like, do you guys want to go to the bar? Like it was so built up. Like we're going to have this great nostalgic night.
Yeah.
And then we're just like, this is not working. Like this is a waste of an evening.
It's not happening.
Let's go. Anyway, that's all I got.
Yeah, that's it. Just, yeah. Just movies like that from that era, just, they seem so cool when I was like 10.
And that's great that like that's the mythology you have on them. Yeah. Sometimes it's best not to revisit it.
Yeah. Face Off, you absolutely have to revisit it.
And as far as music goes, I think about some of the stuff I listened to when I was like in high school, and like some of it still is part of like my regular rotation, but a lot of it's just like, Jesus Christ, what was I, fucking retarded?
Oh man, I think I feel that way about basically 100% of everything I listened to before I was 15. Mm-hmm. Dude, when I was 17, I was like balls deep into Hoobastank.
I'm sorry. I couldn't even name it. Like that might sound like I was balls deep in Jimmy's Chicken Shack.
Yeah, sure. Jimmy's Chicken Shack. There you go. Stroke 9. I remember one time.
Hey, Little Black Backpack's a solid ass song.
Yeah, it's song. The record, not so solid.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, CD Warehouse.
Hey, anyone that grew up in the 90s, like your parents' generation is fucking far superior as far as music goes.
Oh, absolutely.
I do not even like listening to most 90s music, like ironically. It's not good. It's very bad. I like the Smashing Pumpkins, Beck, the Pixies, and like Nirvana. And that's about it. Maybe some Soundgarden every now and then.
Except for Will Smith, Big Willie style.
Well, of course.
That
always goes without saying, though. That guy's just pure talent.
Yeah, just pure. Basically, he's a leviathan of rap and hip hop.
Right.
Especially when it comes to Jim's as in big, getting jiggy with it.
We've already broken so many copyright rules, you might as well crank that shit up.
Yeah, just, you know.
Can I plug my shit?
Mr. Bobby Pearson, please tell us where you can. Sorry, I was just taking in Big Willie style.
Understandably so.
Where can everybody hear the? I almost said my own podcast name. Where can everybody hear the Not For Everyone podcast? Where can they hear StrangeGun?
Not For Everyone podcast is on iTunes and Stitcher. You can follow me at Pinball Bobby on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow the Not For Everyone podcast at Not For Everyone podcast. You can follow my co-host Adam at VonArt13 on Instagram. And I'm in a band called StrangeGun, which is just like a punk rock and roll band. Catchy, poppy, fucking everything. We love everything from the Ramones to Cheap Trick is what I tell people.
Goddamn right.
That's on Reverb Nation, StrangeGun official, and we play about once a month in Austin.
It's a good spacing.
Yeah.
Once a month.
We're all old.
Yeah.
And have jobs and
once
shit.
a month. There you go.
Like I remember playing Headhunters at like 2 a.m. I'm like, fuck this. I got to go to work tomorrow.
Before it was Metal and Lace.
Metal and Lace was a great bar in Austin.
Bobby Pearson, thank you for coming in, man. Thanks
Not
for
a
doing
problem.
it.
Thanks for coming over.
Well, I'm leaving the past behind. So sick of living in rewind. Well, story is somewhere out there. Some Mary's a drink away. Northern Boulevard bombs away. No, these blues ain't nothing but a stain. Some different kind of poison in my veins. Well, I got Jamie and you got Tanqueray. Northern Boulevard bombs away. Let's go! You get nothing but heartache. You're nothing at all. That's the way that it is when the dominoes fall. No, never surrender. Never to fall. That's the way that it is with your back up on the wall. Got to burn this city alive. Burn this city alive. Burn this city alive tonight. So I'm coming back home, summer sun. Share my palms with everyone. Well, you've got tuition and I got bills to pay. Austin, Texas, bombs away. Let's go. Burn this city alive. Burn this city alive. Burn this city alive tonight. Burn this city alive. Burn this city alive. Burn this city alive tonight. Burn this city alive. Burn this city alive. Burn this city alive tonight. Yeah, baby. Burn this city alive tonight.
Attention Black Mesa researchers. This has been a presentation of the No Plans podcast.
Because tomorrow the sun will rise. Who knows what the tide could bring?